during perimenopause, we then go into post-menopause. What happens then what is the research on that? Are we just in this perimenopause stage for a while where we have to kind of hold back a little bit here and do some skill days? And then once we get into post-menopause, it's like, let's get off to the races. We're good to go.
Well, when we're looking at perimenopause, there are inherent changes that are happening in our body. We are seeing a reduction in our receptors for estrogen and progesterone. They're winding down. So we're having overt changes to all systems of our body. So we start to see a drop in our cardiovascular function. We're seeing changes in our blood pressure because our blood vessels aren't as responsive to opening and closing or dilating and constricting as much as they should. We see alterations in the way that we can handle hot and cold. We see metabolic shifts. So all of these things are happening in perimenopause, which is what's driving symptomology. Because as we have ovarian wind down, all of our systems have to become reliant not on sex hormones, but on external stressors for adaptation. The way I like to explain it to women is, do you remember puberty? When all of a sudden the bodies are changing and then boom, you get a menstrual cycle.
And you're like, what is this?
I know. Right. You're like, how come I can't do pull-ups? I could do pull-ups last month, but I can't do them anymore. It's because we're having all of these changes at puberty, including change in center of gravity, widening of our hips, widening of our shoulders. And that affects the way that we move and can really acknowledge how our body is in space and time. We get to perimenopause, we're having the unwinding of that. So our systems are all going, wait a second, I had to wind up and be able to use all these sex hormones. Now they're gone. Now what do I do? So when we look at menopause, which is that one day on the calendar that marks 12 months of no periods, then the day after that is postmenopause. We have early postmenopause and late postmenopause. In early postmenopause, we still have some of our sex hormones and our receptors working. So you might still have symptomology, but absolutely no bleeds.
And what age is that, roughly?
Average age is 51.
Okay.
But kind of like to look at how your mother went through it. Did your mom have a really bad time or not? What was her average age? Because then that gives you a better indication of what you're going to expect. There are some caveats in there because our parents had a different sociocultural standard than what we have with regards to jobs and physical activity. But it gives you a little bit of a better insight of what to expect and when to expect it. When we hit postmenopause, we have the opportunity to thrive again. We can still hit it hard. We can build muscle. We just have to understand that.
Yay!
I know. We have to look at the exercise that we're doing as a way to apply stress that will make our body adapt the way sex hormones used to help us. So this is, if we want to be powerful and strong, we have to look at more of the power-based type training where we're looking at heavier loads, less reps. We look at the high-intensity work, which is what CrossFit's all about. But instead of just high-intensity interval training, we want to throw in some sprint work too. So this is 30 seconds or less, as hard as you possibly can. And then you have 2 to 3 minutes recovery. So it's not Tabata. It's actual go full gas, recover. Because when we're looking at the modality mix of heavier loads for power-based and stimulating bone and glycolytic work, as well as our central nervous system, that's going to tell our body we need to be able to lift heavy loads. So let's get the nerves firing faster. Let's recruit more muscle fibers. Let's keep that muscle as well as build some muscle. And then the high intensity work that creates more metabolic control. So we have better blood glucose. We also have more signals coming from what we call myokines, which are tiny little hormones that are released from the skeletal muscle that then circulate and tell the liver, you know what, we don't need these fatty acids changed to a form that gets stored as visceral fat. We need these fatty acids to come in and be used as fuel. So when we're looking at the modalities post-menopause, we start in perimenopause because we're preparing the body and we're trying to attenuate all the changes that are happening or slow the rate of change down. And then when we get to post-menopause, we can really fly.
Mm.
And that's, I think, the counter of the dogma where women are supposed to slow down and do Pilates and not do too
No.
much and don't do high intensity. It's like there's no real research to support that.
Yeah, and anecdotally, just what we've seen over the last 2 decades in the CrossFit space is that these women are, I mean, try stopping them and ask them how their
Dominant.
quality of life, yeah, come on now. I mean, it's right there. It's evidence-based stuff, and, we're not slowing down. But you said 2 to 3 minutes rest in between 30-second hard effort, and I'm just gonna let you know, Dr. Sims, you put me on that bike for 30 seconds, and I'm gonna rest for 8 minutes.
But
'Cause that's the
perfect.
devil's work, that thing. Now.
Assault bikes. It's the best
Oh,
teaching tool. You
it
love
is,
to hate it, right?
and it's such a fitting name. You do feel assaulted once you've been on it.
You do. You do.
But, you talked about post-menopause that we should, and maybe even perimenopause too, maybe all the time, we should do more ballistic work where we're loading up the bones, and ballistic meaning kind of jumping, bounding, leaping. I think you can correct me. And that for some, let's say, elderly people, I'm not saying old, but elder than, you're 50 on, if you will. That seems scary. Oh, you want me to do now jumping as I'm aging? And in the CrossFit world, we know, no, you're capable. But can you just maybe explain a little bit? I'll talk to why ballistics and dynamic work like that are so important.
Yeah. Um, I'll caveat that one as well, where if you're listening to this and you don't do ballistic training, you don't start doing box jumps and high jumps tomorrow.
No depth jump from a 30
Nope.
inch.
Nope. You got to phase in because you have to get your body used to the loading, just like strength training. But the concept and the research behind ballistic training is one to stimulate those glycolytic fast twitch and power-based muscles and muscle fibers because we need those as we get older. And like I said, we rapidly lose them as we get older. So we want to maintain a stimulus. But for bone, it's super important to have a multi-directional stress that comes with jumping ballistic training. If we are not used to jumping, then we start with really low loads, but we land hard. We don't land soft kneed. We land to absorb it all on the skeleton. So a colleague and friend of mine, Dr. Tracy Clissold, has done a lot of research into this space and has developed an app called OsteoGains, where it shows you that a depth jump could be maybe 3 inches. We're not looking at a 30-inch depth jump. But when you jump and then you land completely solid because then your ground reaction force goes up through the entire skeleton, which then stimulates the bone to do its thing, turn over, get stronger. Whereas we're looking at the high depth jump and landing soft, it's not the same kind of ground reaction force. You're still getting definite bone stimulus from that. But if you're someone with low bone density and you're looking really to improve that bone density, it's not very high, but it's a hard landing. And if you're really afraid of jumping, then this is some way that you can start. And if we start with low height and landing hard, we're also going to be able to stimulate the tendons and ligaments around the bones to then be able to get into higher jumping.